Right, this video is part 3 of my everything you need to know about buy to let. In this video, I'm going to discuss what you need to do to the house in order for it to for you to let it. And then what I'm going to do in part 4 is I'm going to look at a property. I'm going to show you how much deposit you would need and give you a sort of an idea of how much money I think you would make on a monthly basis and how much money you could possibly make when you sold it after sort of 10 years. But I say this video is just about you've got your keys to your property, what you're going to do to it. Now, people have properties and they go in and they paint it all sorts of fancy colours. They put pattern wallpaper on the walls and stuff like that. Do you know what? I would keep it as basic as you can. I know it's boring, and people go into properties and it's magnolia and it's boring. Maybe have a few rooms that are grey, but I would try and stick to maybe 2 paint colours. Yeah, so maybe do a couple of bedrooms in a very light grey, and then do the rest of the house in magnolia. I wouldn't have any wallpaper. And if you can, I think personally, when you've got your keys to your buy to let, is do a full repaint, because doors, skirting boards look better and cleaner if they've had a coat of paint. And I would sort of recommend maybe using one of these water-based paints that won't yellow. So paint all your doors and all your skirting boards in a water-based paint so they don't yellow. If you use an oil-based paint, what tends to happen with these tenancies, for some reason, they tend to have bedrooms and things, and they'll draw the curtains and just leave them drawn for 6 months and things like that. And like oil-based paint on skirting boards and doors, if it's got no sunlight, it just goes yellow. So that's one good tip. Emulsion in the walls, I would use a good quality emulsion. I always used to use, you can't get it anymore, but I used to use Homebase. I think it's durable emulsion, and it was like tough emulsion paint. I have had properties that have been painted. I used to use Leyland Trade Magnolia. I have had properties that have been painted in that. And what tends to happen if you put it in a bathroom or something like that, and then the tenants decide they're going to wash it, you literally get a sponge and you can wash the emulsion off. You can wash the emulsion off the walls. You want something that will wipe down. So I would sort of recommend that. What I would say as well is don't go mad on don't go mad on the fact that you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to put new doors in and things like that. A standard white door, if it's painted, you might need to put a new handle on it and stuff like that, make it look better. But I wouldn't go too mad with what you spend on the inside. The only other thing as well is I wouldn't scrimp on things like doormats. What you'll find is when the tenants move in, they're always skint. They've never got any money, and they won't go. I could do with the doormat at the front door, so I don't get dirt all over the carpets. They won't buy one. Basically, they'd much rather get dirt all over your carpets. So stuff like that, put doormats down outside the doors, inside the doors. That might reduce wear on your carpets and keep them a bit cleaner. What I would recommend as well is, if you can, record all the room sizes. So if like the window sizes and the floor sizes and stuff like that, that's always handy to have. If you're out and about, if you've been renting the property and the property's been rented for 10 years or something like that, and you're out and about and you see somewhere that's closing down, and you think to yourself, and the curtains are dirt cheap, and you know all the window sizes to your property, then it's easy to go, oh, you know, I found some curtains that are like half price or third of the price, and you think, oh, I'll buy a load of curtains, and then when I do my next refurb on it, you might have to repaint it in 5 years time or 10 years time. You've got the sizes. If you see something cheap, you can do it. The same with the floors. Now, what tends to happen with the floors is you put down carpet, and within sort of like 5 or 10 years, it's sort of worn out. If you can, what I would recommend that you do is go with hard floors. You know, if you can have a tiled floor in bathrooms and stuff like that, kitchens, if you can use vinyl or Karndean or laminate flooring and not use carpet, that's a better bet. An ideal thing actually for a lounge would be to put down laminate flooring, and then on top of the laminate flooring, get a large rug made and then drop that down over the laminates, and then that would save your laminate. A lot of the wear would then go onto the rug, and then it's easy. In 5 years time, you come in, the rug is quite manky, you've got the size, you think, right, I can get another one made, and it's a very quick, for a tenant changeover, you can take the old rug out, put a new rug in, stuff like that I would recommend. But yeah, I think if you can put hard floors down and not have carpet, you've got to have some carpet. You've got to have carpet in hallways and stuff like that. But just try and minimise your amount of carpet that you're doing. As well, like gardens, you know, I found in the past that tenants don't like gardens. You know, you'll leave a house that's got grass borders and things like that, and tenants are generally lazy. They'd rather play on the PlayStation than get out there and do some gardening. So I would recommend that the gardens are maintenance free. I wouldn't put any plants in your garden. I would just go with like a hard, you know, gravel slabs. And then really, if the tenant wants to have some pots or something like that, they can. Tenants don't even tend to have like lawn mowers. I found that as well. You know, a tenant will move in and they haven't got a lawn mower. They might go, if you've got a bit of grass, they might go and buy a fly mow, but they'll only cut it when it's about 2 foot high. You know, they're not interested in doing any gardening. So, you know, if you can, like I said, if you can get rid of your grass, get slabs down, get gravel down, hard standing, it's worthwhile. Same thing with the front. You know, it's a great thing really. If you've got a parking for, say, 1 car or 2 cars on the drive, and then you can alter the front, put some slabs down, put some gravel down, and increase the parking on it, and get more parking, that makes your property more appealing. Another good thing as well is tenants tend to have a lot of junk, and they like to have a shed or a garage. What tends to happen is that they've probably moved from a bigger house. They don't want to throw stuff away. You know, if you've got a decent sized shed in the garden that they can store stuff in, or a garage that they can store stuff in, that might make your property more appealing. So that is something else to think about. Now, you know, mandatory things that you have to supply. You have to supply smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. What I would say is my preference for smoke alarms is the Fire Angel. Fire Angel make a smoke alarm that's got a built-in battery and it lasts 10 years. That is by far your best bet. Put one of them in, you know, on each floor. So if you've got a 2-story house, one on the bottom floor, one on the top floor. Don't put the smoke alarms outside the kitchens, because again, tenants like burning food, things like that, and they'll set the smoke alarm off, and then it'll be going off, and then they'll take it down, put it in a cupboard, and then when they do the 3 monthly check, the estate agent, letting agent, they'll end up charging you for it. Well, go, where's that smoke alarm gone? and they'll go, oh, it's broken, and then they'll charge you you'll be paying for a new smoke alarm. So sort of position the smoke alarms away from any sort of cooking areas. If you can stick them in sort of like hallways or landings, that is your best bet. You've also got to supply a carbon monoxide alarm. I would get that, you know, nearish to your boiler. You know, if you've got a gas boiler, if it's in a kitchen or something like that, maybe put the carbon monoxide detector in the lounge. You need to supply one of them. It's also a good idea in the kitchen to supply a fire blanket. You know, I've done that before. They're not expensive. You can get one for about 8, 9, 10 quid on eBay. Put a fire blanket in the kitchen. That's always a good thing as well. I see on the legislation for HMOs, and what they're saying is you've got to supply a cooker, a fridge, and a freezer for every 5 people. So obviously, if you've got 10 people in HMO, you've got to supply 2 cookers, 2 fridges, 2 fridge freezers. You've also got to fit fire doors. You've got to think about the post as well. Obviously, if you've got HMO, you've got 5 people. You need some sort of post rack near the front door where everybody's post can be put. Hopefully, one of the tenants will pick all the posts up and sort that. But that would be a good idea as well. And it's possible that you can leave, if you've got one of these post rack systems, then you can leave letters for the individual tenants in their little post hole, cubby hole sort of thing. But yeah, what I would say is, so on your buy to let, you know, don't scrimp. You know, things like the extractor over the cooker. You know, if you've bought a property and it's had a kitchen in and it's been in 10 years, that might be greased up. You know, clean it all up and put new filters in it. You know, try and when you first let the property, try and get it as good as you can. You know, get a window cleaner in, wash all the windows, make sure the gutters are clean. You know, put yourself into a good position so that you think you're not going to have any trouble for you know, 5-10 years. That's what I would say. I think that's probably a good idea. Another good idea as well is, once everything's completed, take pictures and do a video. That's what I tend to do. I go around, do a video, video the bathroom, video the walls in fair detail, and then any problems, marks, you've got it on video that when you let it was in good state. As well as that, the letting agent will do an inventory of stuff that you've supplied. Now, I tend to supply curtains, put curtains in, and light shades, lamp shades. You know, again, a tenant doesn't want to be coming into a property and then having to go, walking into a bedroom and there's no curtain pole, there's no curtains, there's no lampshade. You know, like I said, these tenants are skint. If they can walk in and it's got curtains up, they'll use your curtains. You know, if it's got a lampshade, they'll use your lampshade. So I would supply all that. You need to supply toilet roll holders in the toilets. I would just get them cheap, freestanding. You know, you can get like a freestanding cheap toilet roll holder. That's what I tend to supply, because if you put a toilet roll holder, screw it on the wall, they'll break it off. They'll break the toilet roll holder. Then you'll have 2 screws poking through your tiles and your bathroom looks crap. So freestanding toilet roll holders, do that. And then I think you're set. Make sure the bins are emptied as well. You know, when the tenant moves in, make sure that you've got 2 empty bins. And what I tend to do as well is, for when the tenant's about to move in, I give them a bottle of wine. I give them a welcome card, which will say, welcome to your new property. I'm your landlord, Matt. You know, I hope you enjoy your time here. And then on this card, I'll add additional information. Usually, can you please keep on top of the weeds? and I'll supply the tenant with a 5 litre can or a 3 litre can of weed killer and say, can you please keep on top of the weeds in the garden and on the drive? You can do that. And what I also do as well is on that same card, I would say to the tenants that paint has been left in the shed. You know, obviously, if you've got magnolia in the lounge and you've got grey upstairs, I would leave them a can of grey and a can of magnolia, maybe a small can of white, and I would leave them some paint and just say to them, I've left you some paint. So any marks when you're ending your tenancy, please feel free to use this paint to touch up any marks because you've got the same colour. If you don't do that, what tends to happen is that they, let's say you've got magnolia in the lounge, the tenants will go out and buy magnolia, different brands, and then they'll paint bits of it and it looks shit because you can see where they've painted. But if they've got the same paint if you've used, it blends in and it's all good. So that's, like I said, that's all I'm doing for now. This was the part 3. The part 4, I'm gonna find a property and I'm going to take you through the costs, look at mortgages and look at the best rate. Okay, cheers, bye.